Welcome everybody. Welcome to the Women in Tech second time that we're getting together. We had two sessions in the month of February, and today I want to wish you a happy International Women's Day. Remind us that it's many decades ago that this day came around, and as my colleague was saying earlier, it was in 1909 that National Women's Day was put together for the purpose of giving women the right to vote and to hold a public office. And have we become that today? Just looking at the recent events, even in America with the vice president, we are certainly have come a long way from that perspective. And just looking at the esteemed guests we have today around us. So I wanted to wish you a happy International Women's Day. And we saying earlier, just before the session started, that we really feel part of this day more so than ever because of what COVID has done. And we've internationally connected on such a level that it's increased our connections and our engagements with our global colleagues, with the world at large. And so COVID, as much as it brought us so much of stress, it has also grown us to appreciate, connect, and engage with one another more. And as our CEO always says, from the heart we do it. And so today we are so privileged to host this session with you and to welcome you here and to welcome you back to the second time of our Women in Tech conversations. Today I want to introduce our facilitator of this hour, which is not just my boss, but she's become my friend. She is, and I'm not going to read her CV because she always says, just speak from the heart. So today I want to introduce you to a very intelligent, amazing mother, an amazing sister, amazing daughter, an amazing friend, an amazing leader, woman leader, also growing others. And most of all, we are lucky and very humbled and privileged to have her as our CEO at LexisNexis South Africa. I introduce you to my wonderful friend, an amazing woman. She's got a heart of gold that will fight for everybody. And we always have to tell her, it's okay, we're also here to help you. But I am privileged today and humbled to introduce you to our facilitator, Videsha Budbarash. Welcome, Videsha.
Thank you, Mel. Hello, everybody. Welcome. It's our day. I was laughing because I was saying to my boss, who's Parisian, and I said, it's National Women's Day on Monday, and he said to me, oh, to me, every day is Women's Day. And I said to him, that's such a cop-out because yes, every day is Women's Day, but we don't always get the opportunity to have such a highlight on ourselves and to really celebrate what we have become and how far we've come. So I think it's really exciting. I do think that every day is Women's Day because we do a lot, we're half of the sun, as they say. So it's important, though, that we celebrate our successes, our achievements. We honor those that have come before us, that have really paved the way for us to be where we're at as well. And so that's why today it's very exciting to have a lineup of panelists that is just star material. In our last session, we spoke about what is required in order to be bold. And we spoke about how in order to be extraordinary, you can never sit on the sidelines. You have to be willing to stand up, to stand out, to be counted, to be the voice of others, to enable others. And for me, this lineup of panelists is exactly that lineup of panelists. And that's why the theme for today is to choose to challenge, because these women have challenged the status quo. They have broke paradigms. They have moved us forward in leaps and bounds. And so it's really an honor to be able to speak to a panel of this caliber, of this level of passion, of this level of need to change the world. It's very inspiring when you get to spend time with a panel like this. And so Firstly, let me thank all the panelists who have made themselves available to speak to us today and to share with us what it has been like, their journey in terms of getting here today. And so we have, as I said, all of them have many achievements, a lot in the tech space, but also, we are human beings. So we don't only affect the tech space. You'll find that many of them have had profound impact on society, on communities, on companies as well. So very important for us to remember that this is not just about impact in tech. This is about changing humanity as we move forward. And so let me introduce the panel. Ladies, if you could switch your videos on as I introduce you, that would be great. First, we have Nolu. So Nolu Vuyo. Could you, Nelly, am I not seeing the videos? Come on.
I can see Nolu.
Okay, so Nolu is the founder and managing director of Code Ngwana. We have Kim Palmer, who's the director of On the Ball College. We have Pebble Hlubi, who's the managing director and a board member of Kaleidoscope Pivot. And we have Sabine, who's no stranger to us, but still as inspirational as ever, who is the regional sales director for Dell Technologies. So welcome, ladies. Nelly, can you see them? I'm sorry, guys, I'm having tech issues apparently.
Yes, we can. We can be.
Ah, there we go. Fixed it. See, I am a techie after all. So for today, let's start off with some questions in terms of, let's get a little bit into it, and then we can get a little bit deeper and a little bit more naked, ladies. We want you to put it on the table today. We want you to be real. We want you to inspire these amazing women who want to follow in the footsteps that you have laid for them. So let's start with Nolu. So Nolu, in terms of what you do, you run an organization that focuses on teaching young kids how to code. Just teaching young kids anything, as we have all learned in the last year or so due to the pandemic, is hard enough. But you do focus on kids that come from disadvantaged communities as well. You're also a woman after my heart. You're an author as well. So you write books for young kids, teaching them about technology and trying to make technology something that is common in their lives. And your passion really lies in creating solutions through technology, and it speaks volumes to the achievements that you've had. But most, and I wouldn't say most, one of the things that really touches my heart about you is the passion that I see in terms of how you work with challenged communities to uplift them and to break that cycle of poverty and give them a future and hope. And in that, there is always room to challenge the culture and the beliefs that technology only fits a certain caliber of person, and technology is only accessible or usable by a certain caliber of people, race, gender, etc. How have you managed to challenge the culture and beliefs of a system, of this kind of system, particularly in the Black communities or the minority communities as well?
Thank you for the question. I think for me, the huge cultural shock, or where it all began, was when I entered the industry a few years ago. I found myself in a space that was very male-dominated, in a space where people around me didn't necessarily look like me. And in terms of challenging the culture, when I was still in corporate, I've challenged the culture in the conversations that I started having with my peers. Waking up every morning and showing up in spaces which you are a minority, and in spaces that often you are made to feel uncomfortable, has basically pushed me to sort of challenge the status quo in the work that I started doing. At the heart of the work that I'm doing is inclusion. We cannot change any culture if people aren't included. And kids are a great opportunity to influence the future, to influence future generations. That's why in my work that I do, I've been very deliberate in pushing inclusion, particularly when it comes to women and children. Women and men think differently, and I've experienced it within my experience in business, in the sense that if all thinking caps are at a table, we are able to achieve better results. And for me, what speaks very closely is just the African child being able to contribute. It's not just exposing them to technology. It's creating a culture of problem solving, and that's what I'm doing with my work. Creating a culture of kids who are able to contribute to African problems and bring solutions. That's the culture that I'm bringing. That the next generation of young people is not a generation that will depend on other countries to bring solutions to Africa. And at the heart of my work is writing literature for kids, and I believe education is the tool to change the world. Nelson Mandela once said. The reason why I'm passionate for writing technology literature for kids is particularly in South Africa, we have infrastructural challenges. We cannot build computer labs, for example, in every community, but we can take literature to the deep rurals of Eastern Cape and expose those kids to information that they have not been exposed to before. One of my recent works is in Kids Encyclopedia, which has been translated in English and which has been translated in Xhosa and Tswana. And the main objective of this work is just including kids and communities which haven't necessarily been included when it comes to technology. It's allowing them that space to say there is room for people of color, there is space for women within the corporate space, and that we can all contribute positively and create the world that we want to create solutions that are impactful through technology.
Wow. And tell me, Nolo, in all of this time that you've been just steaming ahead, what would you say has been one of your biggest challenges in bringing all of this to bear?
I think one of my biggest challenges in bringing all of this to life is people will make you feel uncomfortable, and those are things that we often don't talk about as women of color. How we are often meant to feel uncomfortable in the space, the stereotypes when you get into this space, sometimes it feels like people expect a male version of you. It's just navigating the stereotypes and creating the future that we want to envision. I've watched, for example, some of my peers step out of the space saying, no, this is not for me. And I think for me, showing up every day in spaces that I'm a minority, in spaces that people don't expect me to be in, is paving a way even for future generations to say, look, running away is not an option. We are here to make a difference and to change things.
Absolutely. I always say we create our own tomorrow, right? The only obstacle we have is the ones that we put in front of ourselves. So thank you for being the change that you want to see in the world. That is very inspirational. And I love that you're working on inclusion, and it's important, like you said, inclusion is not just gender inclusion. It's so many ways that we need to work on this. The fact that you're working on books that have been translated into local languages, that is about inclusion. It's making sure we can touch more children and give hope to our rural communities that there is a future for them. And I love that you focus on 21st century skills, because I always say you can teach content, you can teach anybody content, but you can't teach attitude. And you're teaching them things like problem solving skills and critical thinking and those 21st century skills that will make us globally competitive as Africans. So thank you for that work. So next, maybe we move on to Kim. I have a bio for Kim that if I had to read it out, it would take us to the end of the hour, because that's how much she's achieved. So Kim, you'll forgive me if I just summarize your greatness. So Kim, many of you might remember Kim from our first session, where she was very, very active in terms of engaging, but also in terms of social media posts. So thank you for promoting this platform, Kim. It's something that we really appreciate. But Kim is really an award-winning founder of On the Ball College, and we train ICT. And it's really institutions that look at enabling and empowering women to create a space for them in society and give them a future. And she also partners with all the known brands that you can think of in order to give teenagers and young adults from underprivileged backgrounds the opportunity to study ICT skills, because she really believes that this is putting in their hands a future that they could not have had without it. And she was very passionate about it. So I'm not going to go through all of the fabulous things that you are and you do, Kim, but no, we acknowledge your greatness. For me, I know that, I mean, from personal experience, and I'm sure from your experience, we know that the silicon ceiling is still a thing. You know, we talk about shattering it and we talk about transcending it, but it's still a thing. It's still a concern, and it's not, you know, a concept that's unheard of. And the perception that there is no place in tech for girls is still a huge challenge. It is still a mindset that exists today, even in corporate South Africa, with the amount of progress that we have made. And so tell us a little bit about how you have managed to change this perception, or at least ameliorate it. And what are some of the lessons and tips that you have for the ladies here today in terms of that silicon ceiling and how you get through it?
Thank you so much, Felicia. And, you know, it's such an honor to be here today. And I agree with you in your first talk. You said, you know, one just needs all these accolades. But, you know, you as women, we just, you know, personally me, I just accept them because I feel that they are there to help me to be role models to other women and girls out there. That's my main reason for it. In fact, just quickly, briefly, I want to say that I was actually asked a few years ago, why do you hide yourself away as a woman? You know, are you hiding something? But it was just that I did what I had to do because I saw that there were needs and there were reasons why I had to do it. And I didn't actually feel that there was a need to put it out there. And so I just want to open up with that statement today to tell women, don't be afraid to put it out there because it's needed. You know, I am one of those women that can tell you that, I mean, I've been in IT for 20 years and I shunned away about, you know, going out there, putting things out because of one, as mentioned today, there isn't many of us represented. So one is afraid to put yourself out there. But I saw by putting myself out there, I helped others. And I made differences. And so just to open up to say, that is why I do what I do. And how I do it, just to answer the question, is that, so through my 20 years, I saw, starting out in the industry, I was I was literally the only woman in a group of men in an IT department. And then as things grew, 20 years later, I went to stats and I saw, oh my goodness, nothing's changed. You know, I thought by now already we'd be over 50% and we're not yet there. And so it was quite shocking for me. And I run a training college called On the Ball College. And even there, women coming in to register for IT, it's far and few. So clearly for me, there was a need. Something had to be done about it. I went and I looked at studies, I read various papers, and I saw that, you know, papers that were drafted in 2006, the stats were literally almost the same. So clearly something had to be done. So this is where I launched the Women in ICT conference. It's a yearly conference that I personally sponsored from the beginning. I literally put the budget aside myself. You might ask yourself, how did I do it as a small business owner? Let me tell you something. Again, we as women, if we need to get something out there, we will make it happen. And that is what I did. I believed in it, you know, and that is just something that I also want to encourage women. If you believe in something, go for it, because that is what I did. You know, that is how I kind of broke, as you want to call it, the silicon ceiling, is that I just said, I'm going to take off my own money because I believe that other women out there, other girls out there need to hear and see technology is available for them. They need to see that there are role models in industry for them. They need to hear the voices of women and ask the questions to women, you know, because I come from a background where nobody in my family studied IT. And I had nobody to ask, and I didn't even have a female or anybody. So, you know, let alone, I mean, in the IT sector to ask a question. And so this conference allows these women and these girls to ask those questions. And just this year, I got one of the ladies that has been attending since 2018. She's 21 now. And this is what makes me get up and just do it all the time. And she said to me, you know, she wrote a letter and she said, can I talk at this year's conference? Because I've been attending since 2018 and I saw that through attending, it changed my life. I'm studying now my IT degree and I now want to go back and give back and help other women. And I want to become a role model like those women did to me. And that is why I do what I do.
Oh, knowing your why, hey, makes you wake up every morning raring to go. I can feel the passion, and I can see from some of the comments, people are feeling you. And it's great to hear, you know, you basically reinstating what Nolu said. You know, Nolu said it's about showing up in spaces where you are a minority, and you're saying it's important to get up and go there, you know, just
Yes.
Don't put yourself out there. It's really important to do that. Take up space, ladies. It is time. This is our time. You need to start taking up that space, and that's very exciting. And you know, the stats that you speak about is astounding. And you're right. Every year, when I go through the stats, and I see, you know, we haven't even moved marginally, ladies. And I keep saying this: if we wait for this to happen organically, we will all be decades, millennia gone in order for it to come to some sort of balance. So we have to, every single one of us has the ability and the opportunity. Even if you impact one life, ladies, one woman, find one little girl child, one, Nolu was saying, that African girl child, and teach her, mentor her, be the role model, be the inspiration. We all can do it, one girl at a time. We can get there. And I love that you followed your heart. And you know, we all know that there's no going wrong when you do that. So well done for that. And that brings us to Pebble. Pebble has a very, very special place in my heart because Pebble is the managing director for Kaleidocode, Pivot, which is a software development partner to LexisNexis. So Pebble actually empowers us to be able to go out there into the market and bring great products into the market. And we have enjoyed an amazing partnership with Pebble and her team. So thank you for all that you're doing. And once again, it's great to see another managing director that is a woman. So that's fabulous. Pebble's no stranger to the ICT industry. She's been there for over a decade, though she doesn't look like it, we all know. But she is a woman who really chooses to challenge every single day. And it's important to understand, and we want to ask her today, how important is it to you in terms of visibly to choose to challenge as a leader in business, and especially a business the size of Kaleidocode Pivot, because it's a rather large business? And what does choosing to challenge mean to you? But also we want to understand it's not always roses, right? Sometimes there's a lot of challenge that comes in challenging. And how do you deal with that?
Thank you very much, Felicia, and good afternoon to everybody. And I want to wish everyone a happy International Women's Day, rather. So for me, in a male-dominated industry like ICT and engineering.
Sorry, Pebble.
Pebble,
just your sound.
Yeah.
Your audio, we can hardly hear you. Can you just have a fiddle with your mic, because it was fine just before we started.
Okay, is it any better?
Nope.
No, not really.
Nelly, can you and Pebble try to figure it out, and we'll move on to Sabine?
Perfect.
Oh,
Thank you. Like I said, Sabine is no stranger to us. I've known Sabine, gosh, Sabine, we've been doing this for decades. It's time for us to retire. Sabine,
Don't give away my age. Eh?
we started young. But really, you know, Sabine has been influential in terms of women in tech and really leading the charge from the front. And she works in a company that is also very male, dominated in terms of numbers. And Sabine has always been that person that challenges the status quo. She's been the person that's been brave enough to have a voice when being silent would have been a lot more safer for her and her career, but she was willing to take the risk because she is passionate about this. And so Sabine, you know, obviously you work in a multinational business, which is a little bit different to some of our other panelists. Can you share ideas on how women can drive initiatives, you know, using the platforms that we have, whether we're 1 or 2 or 50? How do we drive initiatives in the companies that we work for? How do we create an awareness of the need for women in technology and create spaces for these women? And also feel free to share with us some of the things that Dell has done in the space.
Thank you very much, Videsha. And you rightfully say it's slightly different in a multinational. But also on the flip side, you have a lot more institutional knowledge that you can tap into. So at Dell, we, for example, have the employee resource groups. I'm chairing the Women in Action resource group, which is obviously for anyone that wants to further women in the workplace. I'm also a member in the Black Networking Alliance, as well as in True Ability, which is working mainly to allow differently abled people to be part of the workforce. And what Nolo said earlier is so important. Representation is critical. So, you know, what Nolo said about having books in the mother language is massively important to kids and young students. And there's sadly so few of them. The lingua franca across the world is English for IT, and we all understand it, but it's easier for young people to be part of it if you can address them in the language that they understand and that they're familiar with. So coming back to Dell, I'm with Dell 22 years, and when I started, it was quite interesting. South Africa, we were almost 40-60% male and female, so meaning 40% females in the sales area, which I'm part of. Whereas in the rest of EMEA, when you went to these international events, it was more like 80-20 or 90-10. So we were kind of a little bit more advanced in South Africa, but to your point, I see that there's a lot of deliberate effort needed to get the numbers up and to keep them up at 50-50. And that's where we want to be. So we want to have a 50% representation of females across the company. That's one of Dell's moonshot goals. And we also want to have a 40% representation of female leaders in the company by 2030. And also have a representation across, for example, ethnicity and backgrounds that reflect the country that we operate in. So that's why what Kim and Nolu do is also critically important. So Dell has, for example, we have the Kulisa Academy where we offer young people a chance of an IT skills development and a degree, a 2-year degree in high performance computing. And that's predominantly females that are part of that. And obviously from disadvantaged backgrounds that could never afford to go to a normal university. We have bursaries, etc. What can I do personally, apart from being part of the ERG and getting the word out and being visible, is that it's my honor to have teams that are 50-50 male and female. That is, if it's not 50-50, so I had a lady leaving and starting her own business, which I'm super excited about. I think that's always wonderful if someone goes out and does their own. So my deliberate ask is I'd like to have, again, a female in that role, and not your traditional, person that looks like me, but maybe somebody that looks totally different to me, because that's how diversity and inclusion is different from diversity, because inclusion means I'm curious about you. I'd like to understand you. I'd like to understand your background. I'd like to understand what's important to you and make you feel welcome and part of the team and respected, and not different, not being what Kim said, and I think Nolo mentioned it as well, not making you feel, oh, you are the odd one out, whether that's male or female, black or white, Christian or non-Christian, it doesn't matter. It has to be, inclusion has to be, I respect you, I see you for what you are, and how you come, what you bring to this team. And obviously, once we get that in our head, it's actually critical that we build the teams that look like the diversity of any country that we operate in.
Absolutely. That is so important, in that we talk about inclusion and diversity, and I fear that because it has become these buzzwords, in corporate, it's like everybody needs to have a charter on diversity and inclusion. And so it's great to understand that where you work, it is very intentional.
Yes.
And I think that for me leads on to a question, maybe for Nolu. How important is it for us to be very intentional about change versus, hoping and praying? And maybe give us an example where you have faced something that seemed, unsurmountable, but because of your intention around changing something, you were able to achieve results.
Thank you, Fidesha, for the question. I think intent in anything is very important, because it gives purpose and meaning to what we do. In terms of changing the culture and just being intentional, it's quite important. And in how I have transformed the space in my own capacity, I have done a lot of work within mentoring women within the ICT space, because I got into the space and I wasn't comfortable with being the only one. So I was quite deliberate in how I wanted to pull people together. So intent is what drives action. It's not wishing for the change. It's being the change that you want to see, setting goals for yourself in terms of how you're going to achieve the goals for yourself. And I think for me personally, it didn't just stop at wanting to see more women in the space. It even grew into a bigger version of having an African child included in the technology agenda, which is why I basically started my initiative. Because us say it's all good that we have these initiatives to mentor women, but if we're mentoring women who are already in the workplace, we're not really contributing positively to the future digital workforce. And I think this is where the importance of the work that I do with the kids come in, because it's saying, yes, we're transforming the space by doing short-term wins within the space, but we're also transforming the space by looking at the future and seeing how we can positively impact the future. So I think intent adds value when it's short-term and when it's long-term, looking into the future and not just looking into the present.
Yeah, it shows, it gives you impact, because when you're intentional about something, it's easier to measure results versus something that just kind of happens on the go. And Kim, I'm thinking there's a new partnership for you to add to this amazing list. So Sabine is very, very passionate about working with, especially women like you that want to empower other women. And so, Kim, maybe talk to us a little bit about some of the challenges that you space as an entrepreneur? And then maybe Sabine, you can give us after that the corporate side of things. You know, people always say, it's easier to have a corporate job than it is to be an entrepreneur. I'm not saying it is, I'm not saying it's not. I think it would be great to get a perspective from either side. You know, tell us a little bit about, you know, we keep saying to women, there aren't enough jobs out there. You've got to create spaces. But it's easy to say, how do you actually do it? And what are some of the things you've had to overcome? But then also, you know, leave us with some hope in terms of what does that bring to you that feeds your soul?
Wow. Thank you, Fidesha. What a question. I'd like to start off with, firstly, definitely pray. Doesn't matter what faith you're in. No, seriously, I really just think it's definitely, I think, the belief within yourself. I think that is so important, and what you are doing, the purpose as mentioned, and the intention that you just mentioned. I think that too, that Nolly said, and you mentioned beautifully. I think purpose, intention, and the why just drives you. And that's what drove me as an entrepreneur. From a challenging point of view, gosh, I've had many. Remember, I've been an entrepreneur for 20 years. We'll sit here whole day if you have to hear me talk about the 20 years. But to break it down, what has been my advantage? And this is why I'm so about empowering women with technology. It's been technology. Because as a woman, you have to be in so many places at so many times. And when your life evolves and you become a mother, and then you get married and you have another family and various things of life, you've got to juggle all of that. And so when you become a business owner, you also have many roles. And I think technology has been key for me, you know, using various platforms that's out there that can help you to make your life easier, simpler, syncing things together. So instead of doing one task, you know, they say women are very good with multitasking, but you can actually allow IT to multitask for you. You know, now with AI taking over, it's even amazing. I mean, you get a car that can talk back to you, you know, you can even set the stove and it can talk back to you. There's just, you know, you can even get a vacuum cleaner that can, you know, be electronic and you can set it. So there's just so many things now in technology that's out there, you know, robotics. That's why I'm so key about robotics as well. You know, I'm busy introducing that now as well with Lego SA into schools, underprivileged schools, because those are the kinds of skills that's going to be required, you know, for the next entrepreneurs, you know, and that is where I want to encourage the women and the girls to focus on. And then the other issues, obviously, there's always issues with finance, but we shouldn't look just at finance, you know, you should look at what am I solving? And as soon as you start solving things, you start making money. So, you know, it's about being purpose-driven. It's about making sure that what you're offering is actually giving value. That was a key for me. It's giving value to my clients. And then, of course, keep your clients. You know, don't think, oh, well, I can just get more tomorrow. You know, it's all about building that reputation with your clients, keeping them happy because they become your marketing. You know, that was key for me when I started learning that, you know, really learned that my team and of course my clients, they are the ones that really help me build my business, my brand. So I can't do it without them. You know, I'm here because of them. Of course, family too, you know, you get those two. They become first your biggest marketeers. They tell everybody about how great you are. So, but as an entrepreneur, just to wrap it up quickly, you know, as an entrepreneur, the challenging part is to be heard because you believe in what you really want to sell. And so you, unfortunately, cannot just believing it yourself. You have to make sure that the vision and the mission is also tied in with something that is bigger and that can make a difference to others. And so that is where I will tell you to look at your vision, look at your mission, and make sure that it is tied up with what is really required by others as well. Because if you've got that, then your business will be a success.
Yeah. I so agree, because I mentor a lot of young girls who say, like, what do you want to do? Like, I want to make money. And I'm like, how is that different from anyone else on this planet? So what is unique, and what is your why? And how do you want to change whatever, a life, a society? Because that's how you make money. It's not about money, is the byproduct. It comes, eventually. But Nolo, getting a little bit, and Sabine, I'm coming back to you. Nolo, getting a little bit practical, because we get a lot of women that say to us, yeah, it looks very romantic, this entrepreneurship land, but just putting your toe out there. What is that first step? How do you take that leap to enter that world of being an entrepreneur?
I think what's practical, or what has been practical in my journey is sort of have a clear path of the direction you want to take. And we live in a community or in a society that embraces nowadays what we call /careers. So in other words, it's no longer frowned upon to have a corporate job and to have other interest on the side. And for me, what I always advise to any young person, try it out while you are in a corporate job. Try it out maybe while you're studying, you're doing your post-grad. Have a plan in place. Be practical about it. Be practical even to the detail of how it's going to impact you financially. And don't just make a decision because you feel it's your purpose. It's what you want to do. It must make business sense, and it must make financial sense. That's the practical advice that I often give.
Thank you. So Sabine, tell us a little bit about this corporate world that exists, and how different it is from being an entrepreneur. Which is better?
I wouldn't know, because I never dared to be an entrepreneur, and I have the greatest of admiration for you ladies. I think it is incredibly brave. It is incredibly hard work, because now all of a sudden you're your own finance department, your own talent acquisition, your own plumber, your own electrician. You have to do everything yourself, which is catered for when you're part of the corporate world. On the flip side, obviously, you don't have to deal with people that tell you how not to do your job, which is probably also sometimes a positive thing. I personally think it is really important. It doesn't matter if you're on your own or if you're part of the big corporate world. I said what you said earlier, Videsha, that you have a clear sense of self, of purpose, of a brand, of what you stand for, what is at your core, and that you absolutely, and by the way, that changes. Don't ever think, people always underestimate how much we change over our life. So if you ask anybody, are you the same person now that you were 5 years ago? And most people will say, no, I changed a lot in the last 5 years. But then ask the same people, how much do you think you're going to be different in 5 years from now? Most people say, no, we'll be exactly the same. So you see, it's not going to work. So you are, the only time you don't change is when you stop growing, when you dead inside. So I hope we all constantly change. However, there is something inside you, which is your core, which is really important. And what I want to say is, whether you go on your own and you really chase that dream and that passion of yours, or you're part of a corporate, make sure that the values that are important to you, that are close to your heart, are reflected in what you do. So there are certain companies in this world which I would never join for that very reason. So they've approached me, they've promised me a pot of gold. I said no, because your value system is not aligned to mine, and that is important to me. Likewise, when you find a company that reflects what is important to you, make sure that you also hold them accountable, that it's not just nice words, that there are actions. And what you said earlier is important. I think Kim said it, that you have measurable goals, that there has to be a timeline associated with it. And that when Dell Technology says by 2030, we want to have 50% females in the workforce and 40% in the leadership, there is a timeline in between. So it's not like, okay, we do business as usual, and then in 2029, we all wake up and then hire women like crazy. No, there has to be, a goal every year, every quarter, every month to make sure if you're not on 50-50, you predominantly look for females and for females of color for those roles. And when I was hiring now, I said, and they said, but what if we do? I said, I don't care. If we have to look for longer, that's fine. I don't want to cop out. I don't want to, it's so easy to say, okay, I've got 3 candidates and 2 of them are females, but they're not at the same caliber as the male. And then everybody says, yeah, but that's a shoe in. I mean, you need to take this male. No, then look further. And I must say, I had phenomenal ladies and gentlemen come through for the interview. So don't tell me that there is not enough talent out there. It is. We just have to look for it, and we have to be deliberate about it. And so find a company that supports you in that pursuit. If you're not part of that, join Dell.
Or LexisNexis. Nolo,
yes.
you want
or LexisNexis, yes.
Or Kim, or Pebble, or Nolo. There's lots of amazing women leaders here. Nolo, you wanted to add to the conversation?
And one more thing with regards to transitioning to your own business is not being afraid to dream and chasing what you want to do. And often in the workplace, you hear young people complaining that they're not getting the right exposure that they want. They're not getting the quality experience they feel that they need. And one of the fulfilling things about the entrepreneurial journey is you are able to tap into various skill sets. You are able to give yourself the experience that you feel you need, and that you feel is more in line with what you want to achieve. So dream big and allow yourself to venture into other opportunities. Don't be scared that it's too big. I can't achieve this. It's baby steps. Start small. Eventually, it will happen.
I mean, if you relate to Sabine's conversation, we have to say thank you to people like Nolo and Kim, who take on the very hard task of creating a pipeline for the next generation of leaders, whether it's giving them skills or whether it's making sure they're introduced to ICT at a young age so they grow up in that environment. This is very important work that you ladies do, because we need that pipeline of people, to be able to produce amazing things in the industry. So thank you for that. Pebble, I see we've got you back.
Yes. I don't know if you can hear me though.
Oh, no. Sorry, Pebble. We're going to have to send you back to the tech.
To the naughty corner. Okay.
Guys, just to remind you, we do have a Q&A session starting in a few minutes. So please feel free to send through your Q&As on the Q&A box, and Lizette will pull those together for us. So guys, before I let you off the hook in terms of the panel, before you get to Q&A, if I had to ask you to summarize, what does it take to make it as a woman in ICT, and what is your advice for all the women on this webinar today? If you could give them one pair of advice, what would it be? Let's start with Sabine.
Oh, I would say never give up, and also find a network, find others to support you and have your back. And it doesn't have to be only ladies. Some of the men are amazing, but obviously ladies help with the perspective.
Yeah, and that's important. I always say I've had some amazing sponsors and mentors who were men, but we're part of this journey of women's liberation. So find like-minded people to hang out with.
One more thing, good enough is good enough. As women, we often think we need to be super mom and the best leader and the best cook and the best daughter-in-law and the best big sister, and good is good enough. So if I'm not having people coming to my house, I don't always have a clean house. I mean, it's clean, but it's not like spotless clean, you know, because I have work to do. I'm not going to clean just because it's not spotless. So good is good enough.
I like that movement, dirty house movement. Nolu, what would be your pearl of wisdom that you would like to share with everyone?
I think for me, it's build a strong support system and hold yourself accountable.
Yes.
Great. That's good, because it's very easy to judge others, but it's hard to hold ourselves accountable. This is my mic giving us problems. Kim, what are you going to leave us with?
Thank you,
Before we
Felicia.
get to Q&A?
Yeah, from my side, I just want to say, don't look at the stats, look at the possibilities. Women, there's lots to be done. We need lots of things to be developed to help, you know, in the country, in communities. And through technology, we can do that. So that's what I really just want to encourage them. You know, look at the possibilities, look at the problems that needs to be resolved, and play with the technology. Start small. You know, there's no harm in trying and playing, because I think that is something that even in the girls, you know, they don't want to really play with the technology. They're afraid. And I want to encourage them. Play. It won't harm you. It's fun. You'll enjoy it.
I agree. Technology is an amazing playground. And once you get in there, you end up having a lot of fun. Pebble, we're nothing if not persevering. So shall we try one last time?
Yeah, I'm happy for us to give it a go, depending on how I'm projecting now.
It's sounding great. It's sounding good. So let me,
Thank you.
You know, I can never remember the things that I say and ask, but I'll try. I think the question to you around Kaleidocode Pivot was, how important is it for you to visibly challenge and choose to challenge as a leader in a business your size?
Yeah, so for me, Vidisha, there's a lot that can be said around that subject in its own. But the reason I still choose to challenge on this day was based on a personal experience, which I would rather not share, but rather share what I read about on a book called Lean In, whose author is Sheryl Sandberg, and she is also a COO of Facebook. And her attending the first board meeting during break, when all the men were dispersing and going to the bathroom, she asked to be showed, you know, where the ladies' room is. And the guys looked amongst one another in a manner that was shocking to her, because they said, oh, sorry, we don't have a female bathroom on this floor. And when she asked why, she was told that there were never an expectation to have a female serve on their board. So for me, that talks to us having to challenge things like social indoctrination, cultural insubordination, because there's this thing that women are not born leaders, women are not technically minded. And there's also this ongoing issue where our male counterparts in similar roles to what we are doing get paid much more than we do. So for me, these are the elements that actually drive me to want to continue to challenge, because if we don't, then it means that women will continue to become the perfectionists that we are groomed to become as young girls, and the men will continue to be the risk takers. And so every time we fail, there is that unfair prejudice because of our perfectionism that is attached to us as women. And so this ideology that women cannot compete on the same field as men intellectually, it's wrong. Yes, there's hurdles. Yes, there's way more for us as women to overcome that sometimes just it detracts our attention. However, it can never detract our intelligence. And I've always said, as women, just because we cannot fight physically doesn't mean we should stop fighting intellectually, because we've got a very good chance of winning any battle and any challenge. And it is important for us to not remain victims in the boardrooms and in the executive leadership that we are in, and allow men to take it for granted that us as women will continue to be on the line of insubordination. And that's mainly the reason why I will always and continue to challenge openly, visibly, and continue to bid for the women team. Thank you very much.
We feel the passion, Pebble. We feel the passion. Thank you for sharing. And just so you know, I have a few women on this webinar who are actually MMA experts, so they can take on those physical fights as well. Hey, but it's important, like you say, is a lot of times we are our worst enemies. I always say some of us don't need enemies out there because we diminish what we are capable of more than anybody else. So it's important to be very self-aware and understand your capabilities, but also that inner dialogue that goes on in your head and how you stay ahead of it. So we have some good questions. Let's start. This one's not directed to anyone, so anybody on the panel can have a go. What advice do you have for ladies navigating the stereotype that women should be soft-spoken rather than outspoken? Who said that? Just resign. But yeah, who would like to give it a go? The stereotype, we should be quiet, be heard, be seen, not heard. Is that what there was a thing they said to kids at some point. Hey?
Yeah. So I read something that was really interesting because it is absolutely a bias that exists. But what this lady said is tie your voice back to the company goal or the task at hand. And I think, Kim, you said something along those lines earlier, is to be aware of how do I fit in. So, for example, when you ask for a raise, or when you ask, when you're in an interview situation and you want to ask for your package that you feel you're worth, it's hey, you want to hire me as a salesperson, so clearly you want to know that I'm good at negotiating. Here's what my suggestion is. So, and I like that. Just think about it. What does it mean? We again need more mental energy to do the same task that a man does without thinking, but at least it's a step in the right direction, I think.
Yeah, I once heard a quote which was very profound. It said, raise your argument, not your voice. So yes. Put the energy into the narrative that you're trying to get across, and it's not about being louder.
No.
Kim, do you want to weigh in on that a little bit, maybe? You're quite
You actually got me thinking. Many years ago when I was in the IT sector, I won't mention the place, but I was taken on by quite a lot of males, and I was actually told that women should be quiet, and that actually pushed me. And as you mentioned now, Felicia, you said it beautifully. Take it through your arguments, and that is what I did. And I ended up, basically becoming the leader at the end of the day and rolling out the project. And I think that is what we need to do as women. Sometimes we do need to be still, but be still for the right reasons. Don't be still and stop working. Be still, do the work, and then you have your say. Because, often, we tend to accept when people trample us down, say all these negative things, and then we actually lose focus on what we are good at. And so that's why I'm saying sometimes be still, but do what you need to, and then take the action and talk once you've got all the facts and you've got enough to back yourself up with. Thank you.
While we've got you on, there's a question for you. What was the turning point in your life that made you want to be the change?
Wow, thank you for that question. When I actually saw that I was making a difference, when I saw young people come up to me and see that when I started out in industry 20 years ago, I couldn't get a job. And so I went into entrepreneurship to get a job. Literally, I didn't even think I would become an entrepreneur. I just did it so that I could put on my CV that I have, this experience, because how else do you get into a job if you don't get experience? So that's why I did entrepreneurship. And then when I landed my first job and I was in the industry for 5 years, I got restless because I just kept on wanting to grow. And that's when I knew that I was meant to do something bigger and my purpose was bigger in life. And so I had to believe in myself, you know, to go out there and put myself out there. So if you've got that purpose within your heart and you believe that you can do more and do more for others, then believe in yourself. I want to encourage you today, because that's what happened to me at 25, and that's when I did it. And so that's what actually got me to go out there and to become a full-time entrepreneur.
Nolu, we've got people wanting to know more about this amazing penmanship, your authoring and your books. So tell us a little bit more about your books, it says.
So I started writing books 2019. And what basically inspired the books, I had a trip at the time in the US. I visited the Computer Science Museum, to cut the story short. And when I was there, I saw a lot of literature for kids, even biographies of Steve Jobs, and a lot of tech-related literature for kids. And I wanted to bring this back home in South Africa. So my first book, which I had authored, was Meet My Computer. And it was just taking kids through various computer components and explaining to kids how computers work. Second book, which I authored, was around the technology alphabet. Same principle as teaching kids alphabets, but in technological terms. The recent one I've authored is an encyclopedia for kids. So I call this initiative of these books Tech Funda. It's really around bringing literature of technology for kids.
Wow. And if people wanted to access these books, how would they be able to do that?
They can reach out to me. For now, I am going live with the Tech Funda website soon, where they'll be able to buy the books soon. The books should also be available on Amazon within the next month.
Thank you. Oh, great. You made it big. We like it. Pebble, what about some words of wisdom around overcoming imposter syndrome? I know a lot of women are faced with this as a challenge. What are some of your words of advice? And have you ever had the situation where you felt the imposter syndrome?
So even though it was not directed from my own personal self in terms of feeling that way, but when many years ago, when I walked into a meeting with a colleague of mine, and the client stood up, received us, and said to my colleague, hang on, you said you were coming with your new project manager who's going to look after my account. And there was an awkward moment of silence, because I think my colleague was quite put on the spot, because in her mind, she had walked in with one. But of course, a Black female was not fit enough to be a project manager on a multi-million rand account. And that drove me to a very deep and dark corner. The turning point for me, Vidisha, was exactly what you said earlier on. I let my work speak for me. I decided not to become part of the debates and the arguments, but I let the work speak out for me. And cut a long story short, at the end of that project, they had another multi-million rand project that they wanted to sign up with the very same company that I was with. And I had only been contracted for 6 months to roll out their network and exit. And when he asked for me to come back onto the account, I told him I was going into business, and if he wanted to work with me, he would have to work with me through my organization. So in essence, I would say, A, let your work speak for you. It does slowly elevate you from a place of darkness, and you feel a little bit more confident to come out. Secondly, understand that as a woman, especially, you will be victimized, but don't allow yourself to be a victim. There's a difference.
Absolutely.
And lastly is to show up. I call it lean in, because that's what the book that I made reference to by Sheryl Sandberg says. It's called Lean In. It is showing up. It is raising your hand. Don't wait to be asked to speak. Contribute, even if it's at the most minimal, but don't walk away from a meeting without
volunteering any information, because by doing that alone, you're allowing yourself to be recognized. And so it's very gradual, but it must be done with intent. And broadly speaking, it is assignments and responsibilities for people like us in the panel that we are today to continue to mentor and guide and coach the young women so that they can easily sort of attempt to deal with this imposter syndrome. So we've got an overarching responsibility in terms of helping the younger generation come out of this unfortunate shell. Thank you.
Thank you, Pebble. You can tell, Cheryl, I've changed it a little bit. I say lean in with impact, though, not just.
Awesome.
So thank you so much, ladies. This has been inspirational, heartwarming, food for the soul. Thank you so much for sharing, for caring, for helping others as you move on in your journeys. And so I think for now, and of course, Sabine, thank you very much for the partnership at LexisNexis. We're very honored. And you know, I always say it's always great when you find people who share your vision. And Sabine, and I think from a LexisNexis perspective and a Dell perspective, you know, we have the same vision. And so it's really easy to partner and find ways to move forward. So thank you for that. So let me hand over to the beautiful Mel to take us home.
I just want to say one thing. You at LexisNexis have the best team. So it's not only Mel and Nell and Videsha, you really have an amazing team that is on the same thought pattern that we are. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Well, I am sad to sign off looking at all the comments and the questions that's been asked. It's really been an impactful hour. And I just want to say thank you to Sabine. Once again, this is a partnership between Dell and LexisNexis. And we certainly have achieved quite a bit already. This is the third session today. And I can't wait for the year and some more sessions that will come. So look out for our sessions coming up, ladies. There's a lot we learned today, but the impactful one is to be yourself, sit at the table and put up your hand and just operate with passion and don't let anyone tell you where and how you should react. Speak out and don't shout, as we were saying so eloquently earlier. Put your argument ahead and don't raise the voice, because we do tend to do that sometimes. But I've learned today to quiet down the voice and to go with my argument, as Kim also supported that. It's a big learning for me because we tend to think we should speak louder, but certainly not. We should just stick to the facts, present it, and put our hands up and go for it. And don't stop working when someone tells you to quiet, as Kim has said. Continue working. Don't get upset. Don't let our feelings take over. Take the facts, continue working, and continue making a difference in this world for the young people and for others. So thank you. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Sabine, Pebble, Kim, Nolu, Videsha, Nelly, and the team. As Sabine has so eloquently said, we have an amazing woman team behind us. In our Exco, we're 4 females. We're the most on our Exco, so congratulations to our CEO for making that happen. We are so proud to say that, because it's history in the making today as well. So thank you very much for making a difference and walking the talk, Videsha. That's what we all must do. And I want to leave you with this last thought. Support one another, refer one another. Know the businesses out there that is run by females, and let's build a network where we can say, you know what, I know Sabine, I know Kim, I know Nolu that can do this, and let's grow the business and increase our capital, our revenue, and our wealth, not just for ourselves, but for those who's coming after us. So happy International Women's Day, and thank you to everybody for joining us today. Thank you very much. What an awesome panel. Thank you.